I was staring at my phone in a Miami Beach cafe when I watched three strangers carry my late husband's recliner out of my living room. My hands went numb. The iced tea I'd been holding slipped, ice cubes scattering across the table like dice. For a moment, I thought I'd pulled up the wrong app, but there was the watercolor painting Tom and I bought in Vermont. There was the crack in the ceiling we always meant to fix. And there, directing two men in company uniforms, was my daughter-in-law Jessica. I turned up the volume on my phone. The audio crackled to life. "Just put everything in the master bedroom for now," Jessica was saying, waving toward the hallway. "My hallway. We'll sort it out when she gets back. When she gets back." A woman I didn't recognize walked into frame, older, maybe 60, with the same sharp jawline as Jessica. She was holding one of my throw pillows, examining it like she was shopping at a yard sale. "Are you sure Dorothy won't mind?" the woman asked. Jessica laughed. Actually laughed. The sound made my stomach turn. "Mom, trust me, she won't fight it. She's old, she hates conflict, and honestly, she owes us, after everything we've done for her." The audio cut in and out as Jessica moved through the house, but I caught enough. She wasn't just visiting. She wasn't dropping something off or picking something up. She was moving her parents into my house. Into my house. While I was 2,000 miles away, eating grouper sandwiches and trying to remember what peace felt like. I sat frozen, watching the screen as a man carried a stack of boxes past my kitchen. Behind him, another mover wheeled in a hospital bed. The kind with rails. The kind that meant someone was staying long-term. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. But the security footage didn't lie. I'd installed those cameras 6 months ago after a neighbor's break-in, and had never been more grateful for my paranoia. 4 cameras, covering every angle of the main floor. I watched Jessica direct traffic like a general commanding troops. Watched her mother examine my china cabinet. Watched her father test my couch, sitting down with the satisfied grunt of a man claiming territory. And Michael. Where was Michael? I scrolled back through the footage, my fingers trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone twice. There, 3 hours earlier, my son's car in the driveway. Michael getting out, popping the trunk. He was in on this. Of course he was in on this. He'd hugged me at the airport just 4 days ago, told me to have a wonderful time, said he'd water my plants. Water my plants. I was going to be sick. An older couple at the next table glanced over, concerned. The wife half stood, reaching toward me. "Honey, are you all right? You've gone white as a sheet." I couldn't answer, couldn't speak. Because on my screen, Jessica had just walked into my bedroom, the room I'd shared with Tom for 40 years, and was measuring the walls with a tape measure. "The bed can go against this wall," she told her mother. "Well, move Dorothy's stuff to the guest room. She doesn't need all this space anyway." Something cold and sharp crystallized in my chest. Not panic, not anymore. Rage. Pure, clarifying rage. I'd spent 5 years being the perfect mother-in-law. 5 years biting my tongue, opening my wallet, saying yes when I meant no. 5 years of "Dorothy, could you just..." and "we wouldn't ask, but and you understand, don't you?" I understood perfectly now. They thought I was weak, thought I was lonely and desperate enough for their company that I'd accept anything. Thought that, because I was 72 and widowed and soft-spoken, I'd roll over and let them take whatever they wanted. They were wrong. I pulled up my banking app with shaking fingers, scrolled through 5 years of transactions, transfers to Michael, payments for Jessica's car repairs, medical bills, credit card debt, that emergency loan that was never repaid, the investment opportunity that vanished, Christmas gifts, birthday checks, help with rent, help with groceries, help with everything. $54,128. I'd kept meticulous records. Tom had taught me that. Every penny documented, every conversation saved in email. I'd told myself it was an investment in family, in relationship, in not being alone. What an expensive delusion that had been. On my phone screen, Jessica's father was setting up a television in what used to be Tom's study. The room where my husband spent his last good months, reading mysteries and watching birds at the feeder outside the window. They were erasing him. Erasing us. Rewriting my home into something unrecognizable. I opened a new note on my phone and started typing. Times, dates, screenshots. I captured everything. Jessica directing the movers, her parents unpacking boxes, Michael carrying in a mini fridge. Every frame. Every word I could make out through the audio. The couple at the next table had given up on me and returned to their key lime pie. Around me, Miami carried on. Tourists laughing, seagulls crying, waves rolling in with that eternal Atlantic rhythm. It was 78 degrees and sunny. Paradise. But I was already somewhere else. Already planning. I pulled up flight options on my phone. The next direct to Portland left in 4 hours. I could make it if I left now. Skip the sunset cruise I'd booked. Forget the dolphin tour tomorrow. Cancel the rest of this trip that I'd saved for, planned for, desperately needed. Or I could wait. Let them settle in. Let them think they'd gotten away with it. No. Every instinct in me screamed to move. Now. Before they did something irreversible. Before they changed the locks or damaged something precious. They wanted to play games with a sweet old lady? Fine. But they'd forgotten something crucial. Sweet old ladies don't survive 72 years on this earth by being stupid. Tom used to say I had a mind like a steel trap under all that Midwest nice. Time to prove him right. I booked the flight. Then I opened my email and started a new folder. Evidence. Started forwarding everything. Every text from Michael asking for money. Every email from Jessica with excuses. Every bank statement showing transfers. I screenshotted the security footage and backed it up to 3 different cloud services. I photographed my phone screen showing the live invasion of my home, making sure the timestamps were visible. Then I called Susan. Susan Chen had been my friend for 40 years, since our boys played Little League together. She'd watched me nurse Tom through his final year. She'd been at the funeral when Michael barely stayed an hour because Jessica had a migraine. Susan didn't suffer fools, and she'd never trusted my daughter-in-law. She answered on the second ring. "Dorothy, aren't you in Florida? I need you to do something for me," I said. My voice surprised me. Steady, cold. "And I need you not to ask questions until I get home." A pause. Then, "What do you need?" "God bless Susan. Go to my house. Don't knock. Don't let them see you. Just watch. Take pictures if you can. I need a witness. Dorothy, please." Another pause, longer this time. I could almost hear her thinking. "I'm getting my keys right now," she said. I hung up and flagged down the waiter, paid my bill in cash, left a tip twice the amount because I was angry at my family, not at this kid trying to make rent. 40 minutes later, I was in a taxi heading to Miami International. The driver tried to make conversation. Where was I from? How was my vacation? But I couldn't focus. My phone was open to the security app, watching my house get systematically invaded by people who thought I was too old, too weak, too nice to stop them. Jessica's mother was hanging curtains in my living room. New curtains, blocking out the afternoon light that Tom and I used to read by. My phone buzzed. Susan texted that she was outside. That I wouldn't believe this. That they had a moving truck. I told her to take pictures. Everything. She asked what they'd done. "Everything," I texted back. "I'll explain when I land." At the airport, I checked my single carry-on bag and made it through security with 20 minutes to spare. Sat at the gate watching my phone like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. A mover carried out Tom's tool chest, the one he'd built himself in 1983. The one he'd been planning to give to our grandson when he was old enough to appreciate it. I watched them load it into a truck marked Storage Solutions. They were putting my life in storage. Subscribe to Stories of Revenge for more stories like mine, because this is just the beginning. Boarding was called. I was in economy, middle seat, squeezed between a businessman who immediately fell asleep against the window and a college kid who didn't look up from her phone once. Fine by me. I didn't want conversation, didn't want distraction. I wanted to watch every second of what they were doing to my home. The flight attendant made her safety announcements. The businessman snored. The college kid scrolled on her phone. And I sat there 30,000 feet above America, watching my daughter-in-law measure my bedroom for her parents' furniture. Somewhere over Texas, Susan texted again. They were bringing in a wheelchair ramp for my front steps. They were installing permanent modifications to my house. I replied with steady fingers. Document everything. The rage had settled now into something colder, denser, like a stone in my chest that would never melt. I'd raised Michael to be better than this, sacrificed alongside Tom to put him through college, celebrated his wedding even though something in Jessica's eyes had never quite seemed right, welcomed her into our family, our home, our lives, and this was my reward. The flight lasted 5 hours. I didn't sleep. Didn't eat the sad little bag of pretzels they offered. Just watched. Watched them move furniture, hang pictures, claim my space inch by inch. Around midnight, Jessica finally left. Her parents stayed. I watched her hug her mother goodbye in my kitchen. Saw her father settle into Tom's recliner, the one Tom died in, the one I'd kept, because sometimes I still needed to sit in it and remember what it felt like to not be alone. He had a beer in his hand, was watching my television, in my house. The plane landed at 6:47 in the morning Portland time. I'd been awake for 24 hours. Should have been exhausted, should have been falling apart, but I felt sharp, clear, focused in a way I hadn't been since Tom died. I took a taxi to a coffee shop 3 blocks from my house, ordered black coffee I didn't drink, sat in the corner with my phone, pulling up the security footage. Jessica's parents were still asleep, in my guest room, in beds I didn't recognize, surrounded by belongings that had invaded like a virus. Susan texted asking if I was home. I told her I was close, thanked her for yesterday. She replied that she had 17 minutes of video and about 100 photos. That when I was ready to talk, she was there. I wasn't ready to talk. Wasn't ready for comfort or advice or even righteous anger from a friend. I was ready for war. The sun was coming up over Portland, painting Cedar Avenue in shades of gold and pink. Beautiful. Tom would have loved this light. Would have had his camera out, capturing the way it hit the mountains in the distance. Tom would have also burned the house down before letting someone disrespect me like this. I smiled. First time since he'd seen that security footage. Then I settled in to watch, to wait, to let them think they were safe. They had no idea I was 3 blocks away. And they had absolutely no idea what was coming. What? I spent 2 hours at that coffee shop watching strangers shuffle in for their morning caffeine while I plotted the systematic dismantling of my family's betrayal. My phone sat on the table between my untouched coffee and a blueberry muffin I'd ordered for appearance's sake. On the screen, Jessica's father was making breakfast in my kitchen, using my pans, my stove, my eggs. At 8:47 in the morning, I watched Michael's car pull into my driveway. My son got out carrying 2 grocery bags, let himself in with his key, the key I'd given him for emergencies, for watering plants, for being the son I'd raised to be trustworthy. He walked straight to the kitchen, started unloading groceries into my refrigerator like this was perfectly normal. Like his mother wasn't supposed to be coming home in 3 days to find her house occupied by strangers. Jessica's mother appeared, still in her bathrobe. She hugged Michael. Actually hugged him, warm and familiar, like they'd planned this together for months. Because they had. My hands were steady as I gathered my things. The shaking had stopped somewhere over Nevada. Now I just felt cold, purposeful. The hardware store opened at 9. I was waiting at the door. The kid who helped me couldn't have been more than 25, with a name tag that said Trevor and the enthusiastic ignorance of someone who'd never been betrayed by family. He showed me locks, deadbolts, smart locks, keypad entries. I bought the best they had, 3 sets. One for the front door, one for the back, one for the garage. Next stop was the Portland Police Department. The officer at the front desk looked up from her computer with the practiced patience of someone used to dealing with civilians who didn't understand how the law worked. Her nameplate read, Officer Martinez. I need to file a report, I said, and I need to understand my rights regarding trespassers in my home. Something in my voice must have cut through the routine. She straightened. What kind of trespassers? Family members who moved into my house without permission while I was out of town. Officer Martinez's expression shifted. She'd heard this before. Do they have keys? My son does. He let them in. Does your son live with you? No. Is he on the deed? No. She pulled out a form. Tell me everything. I did. Showed her the security footage, the timestamps, Susan's photos of the moving truck. Showed her the evidence folder I'd compiled on the plane, emails, bank statements showing $54,000 in loans that were never repaid. Officer Martinez's jaw tightened as she scrolled through the images. This is premeditated. Yes. You want them removed from the property? Immediately. She made copies of everything, took my statement. Explained that because they'd been invited in by someone with a key, it complicated things, but the key holder didn't have authority to grant residency to third parties. She could send an officer to serve a no trespass order. When? I asked. How about now? I liked Officer Martinez. We arrived at my house at 10:23. The moving truck was still in the driveway, but they were loading it now, not unloading, taking things out. My things. The stone in my chest turned to ice. Officer Martinez saw my expression. Mom, I need you to stay calm. Let me handle this. But I was already out of the patrol car, already walking up my driveway, already watching a stranger carry out the quilt my grandmother made in 1952. Put that down, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded like someone who'd spent 72 years learning to be polite and had just run out of patience for politeness. The mover froze. He was young, heavily tattooed, built like he moved furniture for a living, but something in my face made him take a step back. Ma'am, I'm just doing my job. Put it down. He set the quilt on the porch steps like it was made of nitroglycerin. The front door opened. Jessica appeared, phone in hand, irritation written across her features. Then she saw me. Saw the police cruiser. Saw Officer Martinez getting out with a clipboard. The irritation transformed into something spectacular. Fear, shock, rage. All of it flickering across her face in the span of seconds. Dorothy, she said. My name sounded like an accusation. You're supposed to be in Florida. Funny how plans change. Michael appeared behind her. My son. My baby boy who I'd rocked through nightmares and driven to Little League and helped move into his first apartment. He went pale. Mom, don't. I held up one hand. Don't say a word until I'm done. Jessica's parents came out next, drawn by the commotion. Her mother was still in that bathrobe. Her father had my husband's reading glasses perched on his head. Tom's glasses. The ones I'd kept on his nightstand because sometimes I still reached for them in the morning, forgetting. Mrs. Cross? Officer Martinez stepped forward. I'm going to need everyone to remain calm while we sort this out. There's nothing to sort out, Jessica said. Her voice had that edge it got when she was cornered. We had permission to be here. Michael has a key. Michael has a key for emergencies, I said. Not for moving his in-laws into my home while I'm on vacation. We were helping, Michael said. He looked sick. Good. Mom, Jessica's parents needed a place to stay. Their apartment had mold issues. And you have all this space. Stop talking. He did. I'd never used that voice with him before. The voice that said I was done being managed, handled, pacified. Jessica's mother pulled her bathrobe tighter. Jessica said you'd offered. She said you'd talked about it and were happy to have us. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was maybe 65, with Jessica's eyes, but without the calculation behind them. She looked confused, worried, not malicious. When did she tell you this? I asked. 2 weeks ago. She said you'd been rattling around in this big house alone, that you'd love the company, that... She stopped, looked at her daughter. Jessica? Mom, she's confused, Jessica said quickly. Too quickly. She's getting older, she forgets conversations. I'm 72, I said. Not 92. And there's nothing wrong with my memory. I pulled out my phone, opened the evidence folder, started reading aloud. Email from Jessica to Michael, dated 3 weeks ago. Your mom's house is perfect. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath upstairs we can convert. Once we get my parents settled, we can start talking about the renovations. Shell never agreed to spend the money on her own, but if we frame it as helping my parents, Shell cave like always. Jessica's face went white. I kept reading. Text from Michael to Jessica, same day. Are you sure? What if she says no? Response from Jessica, she won't. And if she tries, we'll already be moved in. What's she going to do? Throw out my elderly parents? She's too nice for that. The silence on my lawn was absolute. Even the birds had stopped singing. Jessica's father stepped forward. He'd removed Tom's glasses, held them out to me like an offering. We didn't know, he said quietly. She told us you'd offered. We would never have... I know, I said. And I did. These weren't masterminds. These were tired people who trusted their daughter and gotten weaponized for it. I turned to Officer Martinez. I want everyone out, now. Mom, please. Michael moved toward me. Just listen for a minute. Yes, maybe we should have asked first, but you would have said yes. No, I said. I wouldn't have. I would have said absolutely not. I would have said that I'm still living in this house, that I don't want roommates, that I already gave you $54,000 over the past 5 years, and am done being your ATM. Mrs. Chen had come out onto her porch next door. She wasn't even pretending not to watch. Good. Let the whole street hear this. You have no idea what we've been through, Jessica said. Her voice had gone shrill. Michael's salary isn't enough. My parents needed help, and you're sitting on all this money and space doing nothing with it. It's my money, my space, my life. You're being selfish. Officer Martinez cleared her throat. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to lower your voice. But Jessica was past caring. She's a bitter old woman who's been alone so long she doesn't remember what family means. We were trying to help her. By stealing my house? I asked. By planning renovations without asking? By putting my belongings in storage? I turned to the movers, who were watching this unfold like the world's most uncomfortable reality show. Which storage facility? The tattooed one hesitated. Looked at Jessica, looked at the police officer, made a smart choice. Cedar Avenue Storage, Unit 247. I pulled up the security footage from this morning on my phone. Showed Officer Martinez. This is them loading my husband's tools, his recliner, my grandmother's china cabinet. Officer Martinez made notes. Mrs. Cross has documentation that these items were removed without her knowledge or consent. That's theft. We were protecting them during renovations, Jessica shouted. What renovations? I asked softly. The ones you were planning without asking? The $40,000 in changes I found in your email drafts? Jessica's mother made a small sound. Looked at her daughter like she was seeing a stranger. 40,000? Jessica's father repeated. You said minor updates, a wheelchair ramp and a bathroom modification. Because that's what you needed. Jessica was falling apart now, her voice cracking. I was trying to take care of everyone. By lying to everyone, I said. Michael grabbed my arm. Not hard, just desperate. Mom, please, we can work this out. Just let Jessica's parents stay until we find them somewhere else. I pulled my arm free, looked at my son. Really looked at him. When had he become this person? This man who thought manipulation was the same as family? Who stood by while his wife invaded his mother's home and called it help? No, I said. Mom. No, everyone out, now. Officer Martinez will supervise while you collect anything that belongs to Jessica's parents. Everything else stays. And Michael? I held out my hand. Your key. He stared at me. You can't be serious. Your key. Now. Dorothy, you're upset, but once you calm down? I am completely calm, I said. And I was. Calm in a way I hadn't been since Tom died. This is me, calm. This is me, clear. This is me drawing a line that should have been drawn 5 years ago. Give me the key. Jessica's parents had already started moving toward the house, eager to distance themselves from their daughter's implosion. The movers looked at Officer Martinez, who nodded. Everything goes back inside, she told them. Only personal belongings belonging to the unauthorized occupants may be removed. It took 90 minutes to reverse the invasion. 90 minutes of watching strangers carry Tom's recliner back in. Of Jessica's parents packing their clothes in silent humiliation. Of Michael standing on the lawn, looking like I'd slapped him. Jessica tried 3 more times to argue, to explain, to justify. Officer Martinez shut her down each time. Mom, you have 2 options. Leave voluntarily, or I call for backup, and we discuss the theft charges Mrs. Cross is entitled to file. They left voluntarily. Jessica's parents loaded their belongings into Michael's car without meeting anyone's eyes. Jessica's mother paused at the end of the driveway, looked back at me. I'm sorry, she said. We truly didn't know. I believe you, I said. Jessica didn't apologize. Just stood beside Michael's car with her arms crossed, radiating fury. You'll regret this, she called. When you're sitting alone in that house, when you need help and no one comes, you'll remember this day. I'm already alone, I said. Have been for 10 years. At least now I won't have family pretending to care while they rob me blind. Michael flinched like I'd struck him. Mom, please. I raised you better than this, I said quietly. Your father would be ashamed. That did it. Something broke behind Michael's eyes. Rage, maybe, or grief, or the terrible recognition that I was right. He got in his car without another word, drove away with his wife still shouting at me from the passenger seat, and her parents crammed in the back with their hastily packed belongings. The moving truck followed. The street fell silent. Officer Martinez finished her paperwork. The no trespass order is active. If any of them return without your express permission, call 911 immediately. Thank you. She paused at her cruiser. For what it's worth. I see this a lot. Family thinking elderly means easy target. You did the right thing. Doesn't feel right? It will, she said. Give it time. Mrs. Chen came over after the police car pulled away. She was 78, had lived on Cedar Avenue for 40 years, and had never learned the art of subtle gossip. Good for you, she said. I always thought that Jessica was trouble. Too pretty, too smooth. You never said anything. Would you have listened? Probably not. I'd been too invested in keeping the peace, in being the good mother-in-law, in not rocking the boat. Susan's car pulled up. She must have been watching the neighborhood chat, waiting for the drama to conclude. She got out with 2 coffees and a box of donuts. "Figured you could use these," she said. We sat on my porch steps, my porch, my steps, my house, and I told her everything. Told her about the emails, the evidence, the confrontation. "Michael's not speaking to me," I said finally. "Probably won't for a long time. Hell come around. And if he doesn't, that's his loss. Here's my son. He's a grown man who helped his wife try to steal your house," Susan said flatly. "Being your son doesn't give him unlimited chances to hurt you." I knew she was right. Didn't make it easier. We sat in silence for a while, drinking coffee that had gone lukewarm, watching the neighborhood wake up. Normal people doing normal things, completely unaware that my entire family had just imploded on this lawn. "What now?" Susan asked. I looked at my house. Tom's house. Our house. The place we'd built a life together, raised a son, planned for a retirement we never got to share. "Now I change the locks," I said. Susan bumped her shoulder against mine. "You're not alone. You've got me. You're not obligated." "Shut up, Dorothy. You're stuck with me." I managed a smile. First one all day. Inside, the house was chaos. Furniture put back but not quite right. Boxes half unpacked. Tom's recliner in the wrong corner of the living room. It would take days to sort out, to put everything back where it belonged. But it was mine to sort out. Mine to fix. Mine. I spent the afternoon installing locks. Trevor from the hardware store had been skeptical about a 72-year-old woman doing it herself, but Tom had taught me well. Deadbolts went in smooth. I changed the garage code, updated the security camera passwords. At 4 in the afternoon, my phone rang. Michael. I stared at it. Let it ring. Watched it go to voicemail. He didn't leave a message. Called again at 6. At 8. At 10. I didn't answer. At 11, a text arrived. "Mum, please. We need to talk about this." I typed back, "No, we don't. You made your choice. I made mine." "Michael, you're my mother. Me. And this is my house, my life, my boundaries. You don't get to cross them because we share DNA." "Michael, I can't believe you're being this cruel." That word, cruel. After everything they'd done, everything they'd planned, I was the cruel one for stopping them. Me. Cruelty is lying to your mother. And that, I was learning, was worth any price they could name. 3 weeks after I reclaimed my house, I woke up without that stone in my chest for the first time in years. The morning light came through windows I'd cleaned myself. Curtains I'd rehung exactly where Tom and I had always kept them. Every room had been restored. Every violation erased. Tom's recliner sat in its proper corner. His tools were back in the garage, organized the way he'd liked them. My grandmother's quilt was folded at the foot of my bed where it belonged. The house was mine again. Completely, utterly mine. My phone sat on the nightstand, silent. Michael had stopped calling after the first week. Now he just sent texts, sporadic, guilt-laden. "Mom, Jessica's parents are staying in a motel. They're elderly, they're scared. That wasn't my problem. They had a daughter. She could figure it out. Your son." Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything once. Before I learned that DNA wasn't a free pass to disrespect someone's boundaries. I deleted the messages without responding. Susan picked me up at 9 for the walking group. She'd invited me 2 weeks ago, and had finally said yes. 6 women, all within a decade of my age, meeting every Tuesday and Thursday at the park. We walked 3 miles, talked about everything and nothing, and nobody tried to manage me or tell me what I should do with my house or my money or my life. It was glorious. "You're looking better," Susan said as I climbed into her car. "I feel better." "Heard from Michael?" He texted yesterday. I didn't answer. She nodded, didn't push. That was the thing about real friends. They let you heal at your own pace. At the park, Linda waved us over. She was 75, had buried 2 husbands, and took exactly 0 nonsense from anyone. Dorothy, we're doing the full loop today. You up for it? Absolutely. We walked, talked about Mrs. Chen's new garden, about Linda's granddaughter's wedding, about the pothole on Cedar Avenue that the city kept ignoring. Normal things, simple things, things that had nothing to do with betrayal or boundaries or learning to live with the reality of cutting off your only child. Halfway through the loop, Linda fell into step beside me. Susan told me what happened with your son. I tensed, waited for the lecture about forgiveness, about family, about how life was too short to hold grudges. It didn't come. Good for you, Linda said instead. I let my daughter walk all over me for years. Took 50,000 before I finally said enough. Hasn't spoken to me in 3 years. Does it get easier? Some days? She shrugged. But you know what's easier than waiting for ungrateful children to appreciate you? Appreciating yourself. Simple wisdom. The kind that only comes from living long enough to learn it the hard way. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer. Elizabeth Park had handled Tom's estate after he died, had watched me navigate widowhood with the kind of professional compassion that never crossed into pity. She reviewed the new documents I'd requested. Updated will, power of attorney to Susan instead of Michael, trust arrangements that protected my assets from anyone who might try to claim I was incompetent or coerced. This is comprehensive, Elizabeth said. And honestly, smart. I've seen too many cases like yours. Like mine? Adult children who mistake access for ownership. She closed the folder. Your son can contest if he wants. But with the documentation you've provided, the security footage, the emails, the police report, any judge would see this for what it is. Protection, not punishment. Hell see it as punishment. That's not your responsibility. I signed everything. Walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in a decade. My phone rang that evening. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Cross? A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. This is Beth Morrison. I'm Jessica's mother. The stone tried to reform in my chest. I breathed through it. What do you want? To apologize. Properly. Not through a car window while my daughter screams at you. I waited. We found an apartment, she continued. Nothing fancy, but it's ours. My husband got a part-time job at the hardware store. We're managing. Good. Jessica told us you offered your house. She showed us emails, text messages. We never thought to question it because why would our daughter lie about something like that? Her voice cracked. We trusted her, and she used that trust to manipulate all of us. I know, I said quietly. I did the same thing with Michael. I wanted you to know that we're not speaking to her. Not until she gets help. Real help. The kind that teaches you that people aren't resources to be managed. After we hung up, I sat with that for a while. Jessica's parents had made a choice, had drawn their own line. It must have cost them. I knew exactly how much that kind of choice cost, but they'd made it anyway. Michael texted again that night. Mom, please, can we at least talk? I stared at those words for a long time, imagined the conversation. Him explaining, me forgiving. Everything sliding back to the way it was before, with me giving and giving until there was nothing left. No. I typed back. When you're ready to apologize without excuses, without justifications, without telling me I'm overreacting, call me. Until then, I need space. His response came immediately. You're choosing being right over being family. Me. I'm choosing being respected over being used. There's a difference. He didn't text again. The weeks turned into a rhythm. Walking group twice a week. coffee with Susan on Fridays. I started volunteering at the library on Wednesdays, shelving books and helping seniors with the computers. Simple work, meaningful work. Work that had nothing to do with being useful to people who saw me as a resource. Mrs. Chen invited me to her book club. I said yes. Linda asked if I wanted to join her granddaughter's wedding planning committee. I politely declined, but appreciated the invitation. Slowly, quietly, I rebuilt a life that looked nothing like the one I'd had before. A life where I wasn't waiting for Michael to call, wasn't second-guessing every boundary, wasn't measuring my worth by how much I could give away. 1 month after the confrontation, I was planting bulbs in the front garden when a car pulled up. My hands stilled on the trowel. Michael's car. He got out alone. No Jessica, no emergency. Just my son, looking older than I remembered, walking up the path like he was approaching a stranger's house. Maybe he was. Mom. I stood up, brushed dirt from my knees, waited. "I'm not here to argue," he said, "or to ask for anything. I just needed to see you." We stood there on opposite sides of a boundary I'd drawn, and I felt nothing but calm. No urge to rush forward, to fix things, to make it easier for him. "Jessica and I are separating," he said finally. "Her parents told me everything, all the planning, the things she said about you, the way she—" He stopped, started again. I knew. Maybe not all of it, but enough. I knew, and I went along with it, because it was easier than standing up to her. "Yes," I said. "You did. I'm sorry." 2 words, simple. But something in the way he said them, broken, honest, felt different from all the other apologies, all the other explanations. "I'm sorry too," I said, "for letting you think that being my son meant you could treat me like an ATM, for not drawing boundaries sooner, for teaching you that love meant saying yes to everything. Can I—" He gestured to the porch steps. "Can we talk? Really talk?" I considered it, weighed it. This man was my son. But he was also someone who'd helped invade my home, who'd enabled his wife's manipulation, who'd chosen convenience over character. Forgiveness wasn't the same as forgetting, and reconciliation required more than one apology. "Not today," I said. "Maybe not for a while. But eventually? Maybe." He nodded. Looked like he might cry. Didn't. "I understand. I just needed you to know that I see it now. What we did. What I let happen. And am sorry." He left, drove away. And I went back to planting bulbs that would bloom in spring in the garden of the house that belonged only to me. That night, Susan called. Heard Michael stop by. "News travels fast on Cedar Avenue. Mrs. Chen has binoculars. So, how do you feel?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Sad," I said finally. "But not sorry. There's a difference. There is." I looked around my living room, Tom's recliner, my books, my grandmother's quilt draped over the couch. Every object exactly where I wanted it. Every space mine to fill or leave empty. "Susan? Yeah? Thank you. For being here. For not telling me to forgive him, to make nice, to remember he's my son. He is your son. But you're also a person. And people deserve respect, regardless of their DNA." After we hung up, I sat in Tom's recliner and thought about everything that had happened. The invasion, the confrontation, the restoration. They thought my age made me weak. Thought that being 72 meant being vulnerable, easy to manage, too tired to fight. They were wrong. Age hadn't made me weak. It had given me clarity. The house settled around me, quiet and peaceful. Mine. Completely, finally, perfectly mine. And for the first time in 10 years, that was enough. Subscribe to Stories of Revenge for more tales of people who finally learned to choose themselves. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's refusing to destroy yourself for them.